Meeting to order, and welcome everyone for the Select Board meeting for September 17th, 2024. There is a sign-in sheet over on the table as you come in. If you didn't sign on your way in, please do so before you leave, so we have a record as who was here this evening in attendance. As traditional, if you would all rise and face the flag, and Greg, would you be so kind as to lead us in?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
I was listening for your cadence.
I was going to say, I was going to try to change it.
It's the
No.
it's the no break between
The no breaks.
for which it stands. I'd like to open it up for public comments. If anyone has anyone they want to bring up that's not on the agenda for the meeting tonight, we take care of these at the beginning of the meeting. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss? Mike.
I have three questions and then some comments. The first would be, have we closed the books yet on FY 2024?
No, we can always do prior period adjustments.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
We can still make adjustments.
Have we sent any information yet to the auditor for FY 2024?
They haven't come to us yet, no.
Okay.
We'll be on this schedule probably November.
Okay, my final question then is,
Document from
the town treasurer and allow the select board to hire a treasurer. We've also voted to elected town auditors on the condition that the select board instead retain created an investment advisory committee who I'm not sure who they report to, but they seem to have superseded the elected trustees of public funds. And despite all this consolidation of power in the select board, the voters have never voted to change the due date for the town audit or to accept a lesser standard of accountability. Yet in recent years, responsibility and accountability requires that as the consolidated power over town finances in their hands, needs to display that accountability on the report and available at town meetings. There also needs to be an itemization in the town report as well as in the audit of each and every individual town fund.
Recording in progress.
Changes and balances in each for the year just completed. I would urge you to adopt factors at your earliest possible convenience, so there's plenty of time to accomplish it by town meeting. 8 months from the end of the fiscal year is more than enough time to give an accounting for the past year's activities. And finally, I just remind you of the Vermont Constitution, Chapter 1, Article 6, that all power being originally inherent and consequently derived from the people, therefore all officers of government, whether legislative or executive, are their trustees and servants, and at all times in a legal way accountable to them. Thank you.
I thank you for those comments, Mike, and of course, a lot of it was factual information, and I agree with all of it. The rest, as far as scheduling, is something that we'll strive to follow, but the complexity of the municipal government and the finances thereof make it very difficult for lay people, elected lay people, to actually understand what they're seeing and comment on it. I think it's served us well to have a professional auditor come in and audit the books rather than an elected official. And unfortunately, there are fewer and fewer auditing firms that do municipalities, and as very few in Vermont. It makes it so that we have to go out of state in order to find a contractor that'll do that. And they're doing many, many municipalities that have a fiscal year that's the same as ours. So we may not have the clout to move ourselves up the list, but I hope we can get it done.
Yeah, I'll check with them, see where
Yeah.
scheduling is at.
But we'll try to,
We don't need clout, all we need to do is get the information to them. It's 2.5 of the 8 months have gone by, and they've got nothing. So, you know, you need to exert some leadership here, and this is the board that's in control of all those things.
okay.
I don't see a need
Received.
for,
Received and noted, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Anything else under public comments? Not seeing any hands up, we'll move into the agenda as advertised. We need to approve the minutes of the meeting of September 3rd, 2024.
I'll move to approve the minutes from September 3rd.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
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 I believe that was everyone, and the minutes are approved. Agenda number 5 is to possibly approve a coin drop request by the North Shire Special Olympics for Sunday, September 29th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the roundabout near the North Shire Bookstore.
Yeah, so we've got a Special Olympics request to hold a coin drop from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. By the roundabout near the bookstore. Proceeds will benefit the Special Olympics of Vermont, and specifically the North Shire as well as BBA Unified Team. Julie Crozier is leading this. She's the Assistant Athletic Director at BBA.
One of the issues that I have with having those types of events at the roundabout is that there's a lot of traffic and pedestrians and a lot going on, and if people's focus is diverted to something extraordinary, that it might cause an issue from a safety perspective. I guess my question is that the best place?
I don't know. I think you would have a better answer than that. Have been other coin drops?
Well, we've had, there have been multiple gatherings, rallies, and we don't allow that. We don't allow signs. We don't allow rallies on the roundabout for the very reason that there's a lot of turning movements and a lot of congestion, and pedestrians are involved. Coin drop. I recently went through one in New York State. It was on a straight section of road just outside of town, and it seemed, I mean, it had traffic backed up for about a mile because it was a heavy it was on the way to an event, and but they tried to keep it moving, and that was just on a 2-lane straight stretch of road.
Maybe Bonnet Street might be a better alternative.
But does Bonnet Street carry the majority of the traffic? I mean, I think it's important that they have access to the.
Right, that's why.
But just not where it's all mingling and turning.
I think when I've seen them in action in the past, not necessarily in Manchester, there seems to be more of a, I don't want to say a runway, but more depth to the space, so it's more like a straightaway or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, my first thought would be to move it between the two roundabouts, so that the traffic would be at least away, like the focus wouldn't necessarily be, but there's a lot of traffic in and out right there. I mean, I've seen them coming into town, like out front here would be,
Yeah.
you know, an more ideal location.
Yeah, I think you could even handle it maybe by Adams Park. Of course, you'd be picking up not all of the traffic, or maybe down on Depot Street, which could handle it pretty well. I'm a little concerned about having it too close to the roundabouts. And it's just me, I don't know how everyone else feels about that.
Mr. Chairman, I just feel that, or I would prefer to see them partner with Shaw's like others have with car washes, and maybe they could do a coin drop coming out of Shaw's, but I would prefer to keep these off of the municipal streets altogether, especially in Manchester. It works to a degree in certain towns where there's not nearly as much traffic that we have, and the commerce that's going on here 7 days a week. So I think it would probably create more of a problem than solving their funding issue, and I just think it's great when they partner up with like a Shaw's or somebody else, and so they're coming out of a parking lot and they can do it there, or going in and out of the store, which many do. But I'm not in favor at all of having it impede on the traffic flow.
Well, if it were on one of the arteries outside of the center, like Jonathan mentioned, maybe here on this stretch of 7A, or again, down on Depot Street, certainly this side, somewhere this side of the interchange. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Is there any relevance to Sunday? To that 29th?
Excuse me, the question again?
Relevance to the date.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to
So
that.
to Mr. Cutler's point, if you have the event on a Friday at Shaw's, you have the highest concentration of people coming into town, going into the hotels, going to the homes, coming up to their second homes, etc., versus the egress on a Sunday, when, to everybody's comment, it is going to be backed up in 5 different directions at a roadway that people can't navigate anyway who are from out of town. You're asking for a whole lot of problems. But when any local goes to Shaw's on a Friday, they know they're in for a treat, right? I mean, finding a parking spot is hard enough. So if you're trying to help these guys at the same time, at least show them an option that we know will provide the necessary support they need.
I'd like to try to explore options other than at the roundabout. I don't know if I have strong feelings. The Shaw's thing might work. I don't know if it would work on a Sunday from
Yeah, so I think Friday's a great idea.
11 to 3
I mean,
or whatever the number
We
is.
won't be meeting again before the 29th, so
Yeah.
I can get Julie on the phone right now. I just texted her, Julie Crozier.
yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe
To
she
talk
would, yeah,
about
be willing to
alternatives.
take a secondary location.
Yeah.
You want me to call her?
Yeah, go right ahead. This is coming up soon, and it's kind of a big deal.
Well,
Sorry. Hi, Julie, you're on speakerphone at a select board meeting?
Awesome. You're on speakerphone in front of dogs.
Okay. I'm gonna let Ivan talk. We were just talking about the coin drop.
Okay, yeah, we were talking about the coin drop on September 29th, and we've never allowed gatherings or rallies or any kind of advertising, any kind of signs on the roundabouts themselves because of all the traffic movements and pedestrian movements and all of that. It takes people's focus away from trying to navigate those. And on a weekend, of course, you've got people that are unfamiliar with the traffic patterns. We discussed perhaps out farther away from the roundabouts, maybe down on Depot Street, maybe up on 7A. Maybe at least one select board member said that they're not real excited about having it on a town road at all. There was discussion about maybe having it at Shaw's. I guess the questions are you married to Sunday for this? Because there were some, let me just finish my thought, because there were some comments that there would be some times of the week where Shaw's would be a real moneymaker for you because of the traffic that's there.
So the reason for Sunday, and I hope I didn't put the wrong but it's actually this coming Sunday. Did I put the wrong date?
Yes, you had the 29th.
The request says the
Okay.
29th.
Okay, so that's my fault. It should be for this Sunday, and the only reason that it was for a Sunday is because on Monday, there is at Dorset Field Club, there is a fundraiser going on there for Special Olympics. They're doing a golf outing. So
Okay.
people from Special Olympics from the main office will be here in town to help with the coin drop. I'm not married. I'm flexible at where you would like us, if it's at all possible. And just, to clarify the importance of, like fundraisers like this, I was able to write a grant for BBA, where we received $5,000 to help outfit our unified programs with uniforms and help pay for a para to go on the bus and that type of thing. So that's the reason behind it.
Okay. So
But,
we're,
if you want us to go to the Shaw's Circle, or anywhere along there, I don't want to ruffle any feathers
would you have a preference of, once we get into the village, we can't, I don't even know if we can give you permission to do that on the roads that they are responsible. But would there be a preference between, say, 7A North or Depot Street, somewhere between the interchange and not too close to the roundabout?
So like coming up towards,
What's a landmark?
let's see. Yeah, give me a landmark that you're thinking.
Okay, RK Miles,
North
And then
Shore
if-
Day School?
North Shire Day School, maybe up on this
Right.
northern section. Those, it seems like we could accommodate a traffic slowdown there without impacting the flows through
What
the.
about Adams Park?
Adams Park, I mentioned too.
That might be a good spot if you
Yeah.
don't.
One
Just because there will be athletes that are there,
Uh-huh.
Obviously with parents, but it would give them a place to be.
Okay, so if we think Adams Park,
Okay.
Also, you might want to consider a street light, where we have a stoplight where that little park is by the electrical thing.
Right.
When traffic automatically stops, then they can collect the money then, and then people go. In big cities, that's where they do it. They do it at a light, because everybody stops.
At the end of
Car to
Central-
car to car
Central
to car,
Hub,
then the
Central
cars go.
Yeah.
You've got the green space by Village,
Mhm.
The little pocket park in
And the
the,
ice cream across the
Yep.
street.
at the end of Center Hill?
You can be doing it at 3 different places down there.
could you do different places?
I would have to talk to the group, it's North Shire Special Olympics that is gonna be manning most of it with the athletes, and just see how many athletes are available, because
Okay.
we want the
Why-
athletes to be a part of it,
Why don't
because
we,
it's for
why
them.
don't we consider near the Pocket Park
Yep,
on Depot Street where there's a light,
okay, yep,
and at Adams Park? Either
Okay.
one or both.
okay.
Does that make sense?
And
The thing
should I
about
let
both is people
somebody
can get
know,
snagged
like,
in both.
depending on how many athletes I have?
Well, if they fit in the
Like,
park, if they fit,
if I had to
if they fit in the
like-
park, in the Pocket Park and on the sidewalk, there's plenty of space at Adams Park.
In front of Ben and Jerry's?
How many people would be talking? Give me a rough idea, a range.
10 to 12.
Okay, yeah, that shouldn't be an issue at either one of those
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah, okay. So the
Okay.
Pocket
So,
Park, 11 to 3?
so the 22nd, not the 29th.
Yes, and I'm sorry for that.
11 to
Yes.
3, potentially at 2 locations, or the location of your choice.
Okay,
Okay?
awesome. I really thank you for your support.
All right, thank you for all your hard work.
Bye, Julie.
Thank you.
Yes, Julie.
Thank you, Heidi.
Bye.
Does somebody want to put that into the form of a motion?
Motion to approve the coin drop for the BBA Special Olympics on, what month are we in? September 22nd.
We got the date, but not the month.
Yeah. September, right?
Yes, September 22nd, at potentially at 2 locations.
2 locations.
As discussed.
That leaves a lot of hand holding.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
So I think we should limit it to the light and the pocket park, not Adams Park. I think we should do everything we can to keep traffic moving. So they have an opportunity to get people at the light coming down Center Hill. They've got opportunity, people who are at the light in front of Ben and Jerry's, and they've got people who are coming into town from 11:30. So that's 3 locations at a light where they can,
And they've got Ridgeville Road.
Yeah.
So,
Potentially.
and if they've only got 12 people, they can't cover more than that intersection.
Well, the 12 athletes,
you know,
um, there'll be other people in charge.
Yeah,
The 12 athletes will be there
Just in the
for
interest of-
visual support.
just in the interest of not creating a backup.
The motion is for 2 locations. So if you're proposing an amendment to that, to do away with Adams Park, then put it in the frame it as an amendment.
I'll make an amendment, but that we limit it to the light area by the pocket park.
Okay, is there a second for that?
second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, we'll deal with the amendment. The amendment is to adjust the main motion and accommodate the coin drop at only the pocket park and the lights next to it. Any discussion of that?
I'm sure they'll be agreeable to it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. 1 opposed. The amendment carries, and now that's the main motion. So the main motion is to approve it at the traffic light and pocket park. Any discussion of that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that's 5-0, and it's at 1 location. You'll tell Julie.
Okay, I'll text her.
We have a hand up.
I think she missed public comment because our internet went down during public comment.
I wondered what happened.
Yeah, and then everything came back and it made Carl the host of our entire meeting.
Oh,
So we've been working to get Carl not the host. So he is not the host anymore. So I think Victoria.
okay, Victoria, you have your hand up. We're not hearing you.
One quick question regarding the coin drop. Is this the first time the select board has come across such a request? And if it is, maybe the select board would want to be thinking about future requests. I'm in no way against this request. I'm just thinking proactively now that we know that the select board approved this request. Are you gonna get a request at the next meeting, And will there be, coin drops every weekend next summer?
That's a reasonable question, and I think we'll get some, to answer the first part, it's the first time that I remember approving something like this.
Me too.
It may have happened in the past, but I don't remember it. So this is kind of.
I'm just thinking for you guys, the board, sorry, you guys is not appropriate, that the board might want to consider putting in some parameters to guide future requests.
To be honest, I don't even know what those parameters would be until we see how this goes. It may be, if it's a disaster, we probably won't approve one in the future. If it goes pretty well, then we would be able to say, well, this worked and here's why it worked. I just don't even have the information to know.
Right.
There is an ordinance in Ludlow for coin drops, which I looked up, based on this request. And it spells out 4 times a year, and I think it was 4 times a year. And so it's something we can look at. You might have been
State,
familiar with
I
it.
did some coin
You
drops
might have.
out there. Labor Day for the firemen.
Yeah.
State statute authorizes the select board to authorize coin drops for nonprofits and municipal efforts only. And so you guys do have the authority to grant,
You know, you throw money into their boot, they hold a boot. That happens in a lot of smaller towns.
but they had that coincided with a big auction that was going on, so people
Yep.
tended to slow down.
Yeah, it's usually in conjunction with some kind of event that's gonna create a lot of traffic. Okay, so we approved it. Victoria, I like your comments. We'll certainly monitor it, see how it works, and if we feel that it needs to be regulated, we'll take steps to do that in the future. We have received the errors and omissions report to the Grand. And
Yeah, it's just two minor ones. Got the Sweeney property on Township Road.
Does that require a motion, or is that just?
it does.
It does, and we need to sign off on it
Yeah.
too, so I think that here available if you approve it.
I'll wait till you decide you want a motion.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the errors and omissions certificate for 301, 321, 341 Depot Street and 250 Townshed Road. Reason being properties changed from taxable to non-taxable, exempt upon transfer from Vanderbilt and transfer from Sweeney. It's a long motion, but it's right at it.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, move the second. And I want to mention that the net change to the grand list would be $27,915 to the negative. It would be a reduction of almost $28,000.
Both have rent income, which doesn't apply here.
Yeah. So are you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
Okay, I'm gonna pass this around for signature if you could. Thank you.
And while we're signing that, Scott, maybe you can lead us in once again to the discussion relative to changing the speed limits on Main Street from Barnumville Road to North Road.
So you had this discussion at the last meeting, and I've asked BCRC to draw up the map. Our speed limits are tied into the ordinance, Chapter 15, Operation of Vehicles, Section 15-13, the establishment of speed limits and penalties. And instead of listing all the roads, you have a map that signifies what the speed limits are. So we recreated the map with the proposed changes on it and blown it up a little bit so you could see it actually, because it was in rather small form before. And so based on your discussion last time, we changed the speed limits on this map that has not been approved yet to reflect the comments that you made at the last meeting. So if this is adopted tonight, it would go into effect in 60 days, assuming nobody petitions to oppose it. So you'll see the changes made. We're extending 25 up through where it currently ends now near the intersection of Barnumville and Main, up to the daycare, the school. And then from there, we're going to change it from 45 to 35, all the way up to the North Road intersection.
25 to the school versus to Vermont Country Store offices, correct? Is that what you just said?
No, you're correct. You're correct,
Okay.
Greg. I'm sorry. It does go up to Vermont Country Store.
like I said, I rarely drive that section of road, but I've been trying to, as I negotiate my way through town, I've tried to navigate my way through town, I've tried to include that in my trip. And honestly, coming south, you tend to come in fairly hot. But going north, the traffic rarely, when I've been part of the traffic, rarely reaches the posted speed limit, in my few encounters on there. So I think the proposed speed limits actually make quite a bit of sense for those stretches of road.
Will that 25, or the new lengthened 25 section will encapsulate the new development of houses that I noticed are, now there's a for sale sign and looks like there's activity there.
Yeah, building
Plus
on
the
this
office space, plus the
Jameson
daycare.
Flats.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then if you actually travel from there at 35 miles an hour about halfway to here, and then you're going along thinking, well, this seems perfectly fine, and you go up to 45, suddenly 45 seems pretty fast.
Yep.
And that stretch. And before, maybe you don't notice it, but I think that
Coming in,
works.
where people are traveling on a highway, they're gonna need to get used to slowing down. But
We'll have to
but
have
heading
some-
north, I'm sure it'll work
Some
fine.
change of speed limits up ahead
Yeah.
type sign.
I think it does lend itself to, for people coming from the north, to get into the calm mood, just, calming down a little bit as you're coming into town. If it only does that, I think it's a good thing.
Now, in conjunction with making these changes, I know that we've talked about this a little bit, but are we doing kind of an overall assessment of the other problematic spots that we've talked about? Part one, and then in conjunction with actually reducing the speed limits, is there going to be a bigger police presence, just kind of to do some enforcement in the beginning to get people used to the revision?
Yes, so to answer the second part first, I've talked to the police chief about this possibly going through, and he said we would increase, not enforcement, but education stops along that way, or at least placing some vehicles over there. So he anticipates doing some more police presence along that when we make the changes. But we haven't addressed any other locations yet.
One of the other locations we can start thinking about is West Road. I've received a lot of comments that that's a heavily bicycle road, and 40 maybe just that much. Well, to the people who talk to me, they say 40 is crazy, given the amount of bicycle traffic there is on West Road. So possibly getting into that discussion at some point might be a good thing.
I mean, we do have to conduct studies prior to making changes.
Right, yeah.
And I did let V-Trans know about this possible change also.
Well, I think this is a good case study to see how it goes, and then we can continue to address it as it, we see how it unfolds, but hopefully this works.
Yeah, I mean, historically, you've seen if a town sets a rate, a speed limit too low, that's unreasonable in someone's mind, they tend to ignore that. They do slow down, but they don't go down to 25.
Right.
I mean, Chester's
Yeah,
a prime
so
example. of that.
slow through there.
Which, by the way, I drove through Chester. We all said that we had driven through Chester and not seen any police presence, and I went there to go to Dartmouth, and there was 2 police cars on either end of Chester, keeping you at 25. I think it's also interesting looking at this map that there is only one section in the entire town that's at 45. And I know that has a lot to do with the design of the road, as we've talked about, right? But there's only, for those who can't see it in the audience, there's a blue section that runs from North Road to Beach. And I think it's interesting that that's the only place in our entire town that we have 45. Now, obviously before, where that 45 would have been a little bit sooner, would have even stuck out even more.
Yeah. But it's a
Wide road.
It
It's a
is- it
wide
is.
road.
Houses
and
are
it
far
was-
away.
Yeah, yeah. And the road was there, and the development has kind of filled in around it.
Sure.
Yep.
There's some hands up everywhere,
Hands up everywhere.
and in the audience too. I think Mike had his.
Mike, we'll start with you.
I assume you're gonna move the sign by the Palmer House that has the,
The speed
Oh,
box.
the
The
interact.
speed box, yeah, we have not determined where to place that yet. But we did look at possible locations of either relocating it or adding a different one up there. Can you go to the microphone? 'Cause if you want.
Want me to go up?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please. It's so the people on Zoom can hear.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Scott Curtis, 5804 Main Street, I'm across from the Palmer House. Thank you guys for really considering this, because it is awful. And sometimes I can't even get across the road, it's bad. And by the way, after they leave that 25-mile zone, boom, they hit the gas hard right by me. And probably some of my neighbors can contest to this as well. I did want to make a comment about that West Road and also North Road. I do bicycle pretty much every day when it's nice out. And there's times on West Road specifically, I felt my life's in danger, especially coming down those hills, with the traffic. And North Road is fairly bad too. There's also a sign in front of the farm that says, "Please slow down, thank you." And, you guys can see it on North Road. I bike on that as well. I have cars behind me, and I'll be biking, and you'll have a hill, and they can't see in front, and they'll go around me into the other lane to pass me, putting themselves in danger, putting the other driver in danger, and of course me, in the end, probably not as much as them. So that may also be one of the spots you may want to consider. I'm not, I don't get why people just can't slow down, but that's what's going on. The other thing is, I don't know, I see the town's done a little bit with the bicycles and stuff, with the signs. Have we thought about maybe some sort of plan to do more, like actual dedicated bike lanes and stuff in town, since this is a tourist town? And we could promote this as being a friendly, bicycle-friendly place where the tourists can come and, not get hit by cars and blah, blah, blah. So that's all we have to say.
Yeah, thank you. We did a very extensive process called Manchester 2020 several years ago, where community members got involved and identified there were a number of different discussions going on in different rooms at Burr and Burton. And it went, I think it went over the course of 3 nights, I'm not sure, but it was a very extensive process. And people identified some of the, what they felt were the most important issues, and bicycle circulation made the top 3. They weren't rated 1, 2, 3, there were 3 top items, and we have kept that in mind as we redesigned Depot Street. We involved bicycle lanes there. And since that process, North Road, the loop, the Wendy's Way was created on North Road, and it is still one of our top considerations when we're redoing roads. So
Great.
I thank you for bringing that up again. As far as people passing in ridiculous places, I drive farm equipment on the road, and they have slow-moving vehicle signs on them. Pretty evident that they are slow-moving, but I can't quickly get out of the way, completely off the traveled way, so people might have to wait behind me for a few seconds. They will pass on blind corners, they'll pass on the crest of hills. Luckily, I'm sitting up high, and if I see a car, if they're trying to pass me, I pay a lot of attention. If they're trying to pass me, I am waving my arms in both directions to try to get people to stop. I mean, I don't know why I haven't seen somebody get killed.
They're really putting themselves at risk.
Yeah,
Maybe even more so than
and the funniest one is, as I leave the farm and head up Barnumville Road toward the railroad tracks, somebody comes blasting around the corner in front of my house and decides they have to pass me. We arrive at the railroad tracks at the same time. We both have to stop. We've taken up both lanes. Somebody's coming off Beach and wants to turn left. They pull out, and they're face to face with the people in the other lane. And I just go like this and shake my head and pull out, pull her out. But the people just do the dumbest things. I don't know if you can control that with laws.
I don't know. I don't know. I've seen so many. It's mostly on North Road that it's happened to me several times on North Road, where you'll have, blind hill in front of them, and they're pushing, and I'm like, oh, you can't wait.
Yeah, okay. We have other people with their hands up. I thank you for your comments. I see your neighbor, Phil Snow, has his hand up. Phil?
Right. Yeah, I would agree with my neighbor Scott, but my purpose for my hand up is to thank the select board for considering this and moving forward. I appreciate your efforts in this regard.
Thank you, Phil. And Victoria, you have your hand up.
So at the intersection of Barnumville and 7, if you're coming onto 7 from Barnumville and you make a left-hand turn, there is no speed limit sign until you get to about Stewart's.
There's that flashing speed box right there in turn.
Not if
There, you can't see it as you make the left-hand turn. There is no indication as you make a left-hand turn onto 7 from Barnumville what the speed limit sign is. So to Mr. Cutler's point a couple meetings ago about speeding on that very heavily congested retail section where Christo's and Mystic and those places are, and how there's parallel parking on one, and what is it called, front-end parking on another. People don't know what the speed limits are on all the way from that intersection to about Stewart's. I actually amused myself the other day, and I did a double take back through town because I didn't believe that there wasn't any speed limit signs.
Okay, that's a good catch.
To the-
I
to
think
the
by the
point
time you get to Memorial Avenue, it's pretty hard to go 25. I mean, it's so congested and there's
I
pedestrians.
know that, but, so, and to the gentleman's point, who just spoke at the podium, there is no speed limit sign as you pull from Route 7 onto North Road until you get past the intersection of Aeolus Road. That's a pretty sizable distance for a driver to not know or be told what the speed limit is.
Okay. We've made a note of that, and we'll take a look at it and see if if there needs to be some attention given to the placement of our speed limit signs. There's so many signs.
There are, and to my point, and my third point, Ivan, and I appreciate the board's attention and the time they're giving me. If you're on Barnumville at the intersection of Barnumville and Highland and you're going towards the railroad track, there is a speed limit sign. I know there's a speed limit sign there. It's between the intersection and the owners of Jackie and Ron's house.
Yep.
I know there's a speed limit sign there, but you can't see a speed limit sign. It is absolutely invisible.
We have an invisible speed limit sign?
It's blocked by bushes and trees. And
Oh, okay.
shrubs. So I actually showed that to Scott.
Yeah, and we could take care of that.
Okay. Thank you. So, do we need an action on agenda item 7?
I made the last one, and I made it wrong. But I will try it again. Do you want the specific locations of where the changes are going to take effect?
You can just
Or
refer
just
to
say
the
add to,
map. I
okay.
would just refer to the amended map.
Okay. So I move to make adjustments to the speed limits on Main Street as proposed in the map made by the VCRC.
Second.
That's a very brief motion, I like it. Moved and seconded, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous and
Did you give that to Ivan?
approved.
Ivan, if you'd sign that.
While I'm signing this, I'm just going to remind the board that there's a series of lines
Yes.
for the board to sign. The top line is usually reserved for the chair.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
While I need to ask Jeanette a question. I'm sorry, do you have a secondary mic for the podium?
I can set one up.
Yeah, but we've had a couple people say they haven't been able to hear people at the podium. So, thank you.
You don't need to do it now,
No.
but for future meetings,
Yes.
we'll,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, the Grace Initiatives is here to update the board on their ongoing work in Manchester.
So Yvonne has done a
Hi,
lot
Yvonne.
of work in town, and she will update you on that, and any other things she wants to talk about right now.
Yes, so thank
Welcome.
you so much. Can you hear me? Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight and for being interested in the updates of the Grace Initiative Refugee Resettlement. We have, just as a background, we have been resettling refugees since April 2023. And since then, we have resettled over 100 refugees. Not all of them have been in Manchester, but they have come through Manchester, and they have worked in Manchester, Woodstock, Windsor, White River Junction. The program that we started with was an Office of Refugee Resettlement program called Matching Grants, and this was through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Due to the fact that the program has been relatively successful with nearly all of the refugees obtaining economic self-sufficiency after an 8-month resettlement program, the state refugee coordinator, who works out of the governor's office, had recommended that Grace Initiative become a resettlement agency, a full resettlement agency. In fact, 2 of our volunteers have been with us in the last 2 years almost. And so what this means, as a resettlement agency, Manchester, and so the State Department approved this. And what this means is that Manchester now will be another little star in the state of Vermont, along with Brattleboro and Colchester, as a place for refugee resettlement. And this would be the principal headquarters, although refugees could be resettled up to Montpelier, South Burlington, and so forth. But this would be our base. In Manchester so far, we've had really, it's been very successful, and I would say there's a lot of mutuality in the process. Right? The program has been successful because all the employers that have welcomed the refugees, employed the refugees, and community support. We have community support from the food pantry, which has been a real blessing, and several churches and the Interfaith Council. And so it has become almost, I wouldn't say, I don't know, a symbol of success. And in fact, the governor's office said that they thought we had done a tremendous job. So I'm only saying this because we're going to be growing. So, and just yesterday, National Public Radio and All Things Considered did a little segment on Vermont and refugee resettlement, and they focused on the Grace Initiative in Manchester. And they closed it with a really nice phrase about Manchester. So there will be changes I don't know how, in terms of our organization, we will grow, we will be employing more people, and there are probably other benefits that will also come through our office or to Manchester because of the resettlement process. And all of the refugees that have worked with us, maybe there's one here or there, but they've all just worked. They will work their day jobs, then they will ride their bike to their night job, and it is really, we have no complaints. There has not been any fights, no brawls in the street, no drinking, no drugs. They're just here to work and to just achieve, and one day, somehow unite with their families. Recently, because we have become a resettlement site, the State Department did start to send some new people with refugee status, which means in about 9 months to a year, they will be green card holders. So they are also very nice. They've waited 6 years to come, some of them, while they've been vetted by the State Department. They're well educated. We have a Venezuelan family just arrived last week. The father was an accountant, the mother also studied business administration. The little boy started MEMS and he's been there a couple days, and just today he was helping other students in their math. And he doesn't even have English. So we really think this will be a plus, and we're here just to answer some questions and to let you know what's happening. Thank you.
So, is this a small branch of a larger organization?
That's a good point. So Grace Initiative is a 501c3. We have nonprofit status also with the state. We have a lot of different collaborators. We have a great board. And we are also an affiliate of Episcopal Migration Ministries, which is one of the 10 largest resettlement agencies in the country, and they are the only agencies that can liaise directly with the State Department. And out of, I don't know, divine intervention, Grace Initiative became an affiliate of Episcopal Migration Ministries. And we are on path now to have full affiliation. Now there are other agencies operating in Vermont, as people know. Brattleboro, there's ECDC, the Ethiopian Community Development Corporation, and then in Colchester is USCRI. Those agencies are extensions of their national agencies, whereas our relationship with EMM, they monitor us, we have training, we report in like daily text, did you do this today, did you do that? But we're still an independent Vermont nonprofit organization with a lot of monitoring.
So your focus is Manchester, but early on you mentioned that some of the people that you had relocated here had actually moved on somewhere else.
Yeah, so some of the refugees who I've worked with, let's say a Manchester-based company, will have offices in different parts of Vermont, and they will go work in those locations. That's mostly, we have some direct connections with a facility in Windsor. Just recently, a church based in Montpelier has reached out to us that they would like to help our Grace Initiative resettle some people in the Montpelier area. But even though we may have other locations for resettlement, the headquarters will be Manchester. So when the State Department sends people, it says destination Manchester, Vermont.
So, as you are very much aware, we have a housing crisis in Manchester, which is not just Manchester, it's the state, it's the region, it's the country. Have you had difficulty finding housing for your refugees?
Recently we have. I mean, it would be sort of amazing if we didn't have housing difficulty. But for their own employees often, have provided housing. And because we were also a matching grant program, the employers will not only, they get a tax benefit, and they've also found it really in their interest because they don't have to go look for employees, especially when it comes to hotels. There's so many labor-intensive or companies in Manchester because it's a service-oriented town. So that means hotels have to have clean hotel rooms. Restaurants need kitchen help, dishwashers, people, sous chefs, and they really appreciate the labor, and everyone has done a good job. There has been no problems, and so they have provided housing for a lot of the refugees. And then they also get, because we are a matching grant, they get a tax deduction for the value of the room that they provide, and then that amount goes back into their resettlement, goes into the resettlement process. So it's a really win-win. And this is also a way that we provide this matching grant tax benefit for volunteers, if it's by the hour, by mileage, or any kind of cash donation. But so far it has really worked. I mean, sometimes you have some bumpy roads, and you do work all the time. And because things are happening, you're dealing with human beings, and they are making big changes in their lives, so they're always reaching out. But other than that, they're really, they just meet a lot of lovely people who have gone through a lot of things in their life, and they're just really grateful to have the chance to come here and work and contribute.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any questions? That's remarkable.
Yeah, so we've resettled, just for the record, about 113 people through our little organization and great volunteers in Manchester, and you didn't even know they were here.
Are they all still here, or some have moved on?
Some have moved on. Some have moved on to other parts of Vermont.
You'd said that earlier, I just
Yeah,
didn't know
when they move
if
on.
the benchmark is under 30
Some of
plus.
them have gone to New Hampshire, and believe it or not, some went to Springfield, Ohio, left Manchester, but that was last year. I don't know where those people, but mostly everyone stays in Vermont.
And we've been working with Yvonne's group to try to find some office space for her as she expands. And one of the
Yeah,
places.
so we're really going to use the library a lot. And we have, now that we're growing, we have to have a couple people sit at a desk together, so we're looking to expand in our office.
Well, you have a board, you have some volunteers. What kind of space is necessary? I mean, this is your chance to, this is being televised, and maybe an opportunity to.
Well, we need a space where people can, when they arrive, not just drive regular suitcases, but we have to do something called intake. And we have to learn, they have to learn about the program, their responsibilities, and which include learning English, working, and then trying to get to their next step, whether it's education. So this takes up space, and so we have intake, then we have all the documentation that has to be uploaded onto the immigration database site, which EMM monitors, and the State Department can also go on whenever someone from the State Department decides they want to go on. So we have, like right now, we have 2 women who are coming in from Albany, because it's also hard to find people, by the way. And they're just sitting there working, just uploading documents. course, it's been great, but we are just getting a little bit bigger.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for all your work. The Energy Commission is here with an update. I see members both in the room and on Zoom.
Tim Waller's here present, and Carl Buckholt is on Zoom.
And Jim Hand.
And Jimmy, sorry, Jim.
So, take it away. Carl, are you going to lead us off here?
All right. I'm sure you can hear me, but you can see me, right?
Well, you disappeared, but we can hear you.
All right, we'll have to go with my voice. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I did send Scott and Bonnie some figures for them to share on screen, but let me just give you the overview first. The Energy Committee has had a lot of things going on, and we put most of them on hold because of this MERP grant, which has been the primary focus for the last few weeks. And just to refresh your memory, MERP is an acronym for Municipal Energy Resilience Program. And we got the $4,000 mini grant, and that was stage one. Second stage was an energy audit of both the town hall and the public safety facility. And then this third part is the big payoff. This is where a town can apply for up to $500,000. So I've been working pretty hard with Gordon, and I gotta tell you, you got some good staff working for the town. Whether it's Scott or Bonnie and folks in his office, Gordon, people are working really hard. Anyway, I don't know if Scott, if you're able to, or Bonnie, able to share some of the figures.
We didn't receive them in time for the meeting tonight, Carl.
Okay. I'll have to talk you through them then. The energy audit came up with recommendations and estimates for the work. And they divided them into different categories. So let's focus on the town office building. They're what they call building enclosure. So it's walls, roofs, windows, doors, air sealing, that type of thing. They estimated to insulate the walls would be about $400,000. And the reason that's so expensive is the best way to do it would be to put 4 inches of rigid foam, polyisocyanated foam on the outside, and then because they want to keep the same look, would be to put a veneer of brick over that. So as you can imagine, that's pretty costly. The second biggest item was insulating the roof, and that was $142,000. And that's the whole building, all the roof, including where the walls, the outside walls meet the roof. They particularly noted air leakage there. And then they estimated replacing the windows that needed it for $93,000. And the next two items are small. Doors and air sealing, $2,000 for one, $2,000 for the other. But if you added up all of those costs, just to do the building enclosure was $639,000. And the next category was energy consuming equipment, like furnaces, heat pumps. They did recommend a heat pump, and that was $150,000. So the total for the town hall, if all of these things were done, was a little under $800,000, $789,000. Now switching to the public safety facility. They recommended on the building enclosure $9,000 for air sealing and $130,000 for heat pump. So that was $139,000 for that public safety building. The two of them together was a total of $928,000. It's obviously way too much. So this is what we've been working on in terms of numbers that we can submit to try to get somewhere close to the $500,000. In terms of the building enclosure, we're saying instead of $140,000 for the roof, we're putting it at $100,000 and hoping that we can trim some costs here and there. But if not, we're hoping that the select board can make up the difference between 100 and 140. Now the windows are a huge difference. They estimated $93,000 to replace them. Jim Hand and I are measurers for this program called Window Dressers. And this program makes storm window inserts you put on the inside of the building. And it's a thermopane storm window. You have 2 layers of plastic with air trapped in between. These things are incredibly efficient. It would cost between $5,000 and $10,000 to do all the windows. And that includes the cost for some carpentry if we have to change the trim around the window so that the storm window insert fits in tight. And you stop airflow and you also increase the insulating value. And then just like the recommendation, the doors, $2,100, the air sealing, $2,000. So that, for the building enclosure, is only $114,000. And then we also agreed that the heat pump makes sense for $150. So the town office, again, without the walls, is $264,000. And we kept the exact same items in the public safety facility, the air sealing for $9, the heat pump for $130. So everything added together is $403,100. It's called $403,000. Now there's an automatic 10% that's added on. We don't do it. This is the work program. Automatically adds 10%. So in this case, you're talking $40,300 for a total of $443,400. Now, there's a stipulation that no town can get any of this money unless the building that the money is going into is ADA accessible, becomes ADA compliant. So unfortunately, the town hall is not. The front door is not, and there's no bathroom, and there's no exit. So, I'm getting feedback here. Is that?
It's all set now.
Keep going?
Keep going, please, yes.
All right. So, Gordon thought that it would roughly be between $25,000 and $40,000 to make the 2 doors, they have to have an exit as well as the entrance door, compliant. And then the bathroom would have to be redone completely. We thought maybe it was compliant because there were grab bars and the door was 3 feet wide, but Burke Moore came over today and looked and said, no, not even close, you have to redo it. So even at the high end of that estimate, say it took 40 grand to get the building ADA compliant, that added on to the 443,000 still puts us under the $500,000 limit. So, you know, we're comfortable with those numbers. And the only other thing that I'll put in is we eliminated the largest line item, which is insulating the walls. My 2 cents is that we could do something for a lot less money than $400,000. Just a couple of wild ideas. Number one, the thing about the brick veneer, you want the building to keep that look. If you insulated the outside on the parking lot side, you could possibly do what a lot of buildings do, just put a stucco finish over the foam, and there you go. And on the street side of the building, it might be possible to put a couple of inches of polyiso-sanded foam on the inside. It's not a perfect solution, but that gives you an R16, and anybody sitting on that side of the building would definitely not have their body heat sucked right out of the building. It would definitely make a big difference. Right now, you have cement block with a brick veneer. It's all masonry. Masonry conducts heat, so you're losing all that heat through the cement block. And if you're sitting there, your body is feeling it. The heat's going out the block. It's like an R3. It's nothing, basically. So anyway, so that's the process. The grant is due next week. Very tight timeline, which is why we stopped almost everything else to help Gordon and Scott work on this work grant. I think we're in pretty good shape to get it, and I hope if we get even, most of it, that the select board will agree to, make up a little bit more and really get this building in the shape it's, it should be in. One of the things is, last year we had to replace one of the 2 boilers. So if we get the heat pump in the town hall, we wouldn't have to worry about the older boiler punking out because it is near the end of its lifetime. So if you had a heat pump, then the new boiler could be your backup. So you wouldn't have to rely only on the heat pump. You would have something that's vital. It's good enough to keep the building going. Anyway, so I'm open to questions on that. Sorry you can't see my face in person, but...
Thank you for that report. Just a couple of questions about the grant. First, is there a match required?
No, there is not.
There is not. The second question is, can a portion of that grant be used to bring the building up to ADA compliance?
Yes.
It can. Because I know we had to be ADA compliant in order to get the grant, but we can actually use the grant to bring ourselves to ADA compliance.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So the insulation and the heat pumps and all that stuff is $443,000.
Yeah, I got the numbers.
Worst case scenario, it costs $40,000 to upgrade the building to ADA compliant. We will ask for $483,000.
Yeah.
Knowing that the $40,000 will be used to make it ADA compliant, and that's totally allowed in terms of the MERC program.
So what we found out today was that the front door is okay. We thought we'd need a push button door, we don't. But like Carl said, the bathrooms, neither room in the hallway are ADA compliant. So the thought would be to combine the 2 of them into one larger ADA compliant bathroom. And then these doors on the outside directly exiting towards Main Street would have to have some ADA adjustments as an emergency exit, as a second egress. So those are the ADA costs that we found out about today. But we should, like Carl said, be able to build them into our budget that we submit now. Gordon is meeting with Callie Fishburne tomorrow. Callie is the specialist from BCRC on these type of grants, and we're very close to finalizing this, and we'll get this out by the end of the week.
Excellent, good work.
Can I?
Yep.
I met with these guys a couple weeks ago, and they were knee-deep in all this, and they've put in so much work, and I really appreciate everything that you've done. It's, good luck, and I really hope we get the grant, but thank you so much.
Carl, I think you mentioned this one in a previous meeting. What is the potential, I know with the heat pump, obviously, what are we on now? Are we on fuel oil?
Yes.
Fuel oil?
Yes.
Is there like just a ballpark projection on cost savings on an annual basis? Is there one for?
There is, but it's complicated because the numbers in the energy assessment were kind of going by what the building is like right now.
Right.
So it's like the building now, if you put in a heat pump, you get this amount of savings. But if you insulate the roof and you make the windows airtight and you seal up the building, it's a whole new ballgame.
And
Then the pump really can work better. I don't know, Jim, if you're on, if you have an answer in terms of numbers, I'm not able to speak to that right now. I can look at it tomorrow, put things together, and
that's fine.
Email answers.
I do not have actual numbers that I could tell you in relation to the updated fuel numbers that were corrected in the program. But heat pumps generally can outperform fuel oil and propane and resistance heat by at least 2 to 3 times. So their efficiency is 2 to 3 times greater than any one of those other fuel sources. We've been, for instance, Riley Rink, we put heat pumps in 7 years, either 6 or 7 years ago, instead of a propane system for our warm room. Our warm room is about 6,000 square feet. It's a little bit of an unusual story in that one of my kids proposed this, but the source for our heat is actually over the ice surface. In other words, we don't put the condensing unit outside. So we got rid of, we used to use 22,000 gallons of propane. We went back, reduced it by 19,000 gallons. And our electric bill actually went backwards, which would not be the case. Went backwards because we were able to take heat energy over the ice surface and move it into the building. So our compressor times went back over 40%.
Thank you.
I did do a heat pump, is another example, but the Habitat resale store, one of my other kids and I donated 3 heat pumps and installed them at the Habitat resale store. And they're on their 3rd year now. Provided cooling, which they didn't have before, and they completely eliminated, and we took it out of the building, 1,000 gallons of fuel oil that they used to heat their building. So for 2.5 years, they've used no fuel oil at all. And they've been running, when we had 1 or 2 cold times, actually in the last 2 or 3 years, we had a minus 20 or 21 one time around the 4th of February. But other than that, they've been perfectly fine. And my wife's office also, all heat pumps, no fuel oil for 4 years. And to answer John's question, you also have to know what the price of fuel oil is. And this is the part of the point of going to electricity, is you know that pretty consistently what electricity is going to cost. Yes, we always know that it goes up 2 or 3% every year or so. Fuel oil, you don't have any idea what's going to happen to it. So 2 years ago we were $4.50 a gallon. Right now it's about $3.75 to $3.80. But in either of those instances, heat made with a heat pump will outperform it by at least 2 to 1.
The other thing that's worth noting, I didn't mention this, but in the assessment, they look at the air conditioning units, and they're quite old, and they will need to be replaced. If you put the heat pumps in, as most of you know, heat pumps heat and cool and dehumidify, all with the one compressor. So it's really worth the investment. And we haven't even talked about the other recommendation in the assessment was to put a few more solar panels on the roof of the building, and there's their source of energy for the heat pumps.
And I think we have one more presentation by Tim, right, Tim? Don't you want to show the select board the website?
Sure, yeah, briefly. I don't want to keep you. As part of the MERC grant, Carl, you've wrapped that up? I guess it is. As part of the MERC grant was monies to be used for education. So we put that to use building a website, and I'll quickly put it on screen. Hey, there it is. So we just wanted to leverage the educational monies.
That's so good.
So we're focusing on basically three things. We're providing a place where people can come to see the events we're holding, find out information about saving money and saving energy. There are events. This is still a work in progress, but it's all the framework's all put together. So the events, saving money and energy, and then learning more through connecting residents to other resources like Efficiency Vermont, Drive Electric, and other tools. We also have a connection to the town. Let's see if this will work. We have the committee agendas and minutes here, so that's also part of our outreach, and then you can sign up also for our email list. So essentially, we're just trying to get more information into people's hands and show off our local folks doing the good.
So great.
That's great.
I'm thrilled that I'm raking hay on your video.
One thing I was hoping to do was the information that's on the town website is pretty static regarding our committee. And what I'm hoping to do is replace the static text with just a link to this.
Yeah.
So if someone's looking for any of that, we have at the bottom the members and some info on here. So if they're looking for that information, it'd be nice to keep it updated here so that all the town has to do is link to this site.
Great.
Perfect. I don't know if you have any questions, or I don't want to keep.
Thank you so much. You guys did a lot. It's really awesome.
There's just a couple more items I wanted to bring up very quickly. I mentioned that the last time I was in front of you folks that we're looking at the town energy plan with the view to update it as you're looking at the overall town plan. And I mentioned earlier that, not tonight, but at the previous meeting, that one of the things we were seriously considering is to eliminate references in the energy plan to biomass. It seems to me pretty logical that if we got ourselves into this climate mess that we're in, like burning things, it's absurd to think we're going to get out of it by burning other things. So next Wednesday at the library, there's going to be a presentation about biomass. I would plead with you, and if you have any pull with people on the planning commission, to have them come to the library next Wednesday, the 25th. It's at 4:30, and listen to the presentation. So I'll just leave it at that. And the second workshop that the Energy Committee put together is on the thermal energy networks. Some of you may be aware that this past legislative session, they passed a bill basically allowing towns to have these thermal energy networks and okay them without having to go through the Public Service Commission, the PUC. So there are two incredible experts that are going to be there at the library on October 10th, 5 o'clock. Debbie New and this engineer and Jared Rodriguez, who blew me away how smart he was. Just give a quick example. They could hook up Burton with Equinox Hotel and the Reluctant Panther. They could hook up BDA with the town's waste treatment plant and grab heat that's already available and turn it into usable energy for hot water or heating. It's basically like geothermal energy without having to dig all those expensive holes in the ground. If you remember the last grant that Gordon and I worked on, we're looking at putting heat pumps in, and Greg Christensen's estimate was $265,000 for the heat pumps, $145,000 to drill the holes. So this thermal energy network is just using current heat, whether it's compressed in an ice skating rink or literally waste going down a drain, capturing that heat and using it. It's an amazing technique. So that's October 10th at the library at 5 o'clock, and next week biomass at 4:30 at the library. It'd be great if you could catch both of those. And that's it for the commercial part of this presentation.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions or comments on the report from the Energy Commission? Great job. Thank you, Tim. If there is no further discussion, we'll move on to item 10, which is the town manager updates.
So I've got those three listed and a couple more come up. So the request for proposal of the telecommunication facility location services is out right now with a due date of Friday, October 11th. There's been a couple inquiries so far, but that's all. I don't anticipate anything until around that time. But I just want to let you know that it's out there. Last meeting, there was some comment from someone in the public about ordinance that the village has put together. So I gave you some data showing since that ordinance has been in place, the number of calls into the police department about excessive noise and what happened. And you'll see there's about 10 or so calls that come in, and loud wedding party, wedding, etc., etc. And in all those times, the police just talk with them and they turn the music down or shut it off or whatever. So there was no municipal tickets issued under that ordinance yet. Green Mountain Estates, we closed last week, and we had a celebratory celebration there this morning, which was great, and ribbon cutting. And so
we actually got to use the town's golden scissors.
Golden scissors, and then we put them away back in the vault.
20 more years.
Yeah. So the next steps really are, we've got to install a couple new manholes, and we've got to raise a couple of other manholes. We're going to grade the roads. We've ordered a couple stronger pumps for the sewer pump station. We'll have some electrical work that needs to be done for those pumps, and we'll be grading and getting things ready, and hopefully have some paving done in October. It's going to be weather reliant, cutting it close, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully the weather will hold like it's been the last couple of weeks. Finally, a couple other items that aren't on your list. We have the Planning Commission open vacancy, which you're aware of. It's been posted. We've got 2 letters of interest received so far. I don't know if you want to get the subcommittee working on that, now, or do you want to wait some more?
How long has it been posted for?
2 to 3 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe 3, yeah.
Could be great.
Let's give it a little more time, just
Yeah,
September.
give it another week.
Yeah.
All right, then I'll reach out to you guys and set up some time with the people that have submitted letters. Okay.
Let's add it to the banner on the website.
Yeah, definitely. Bonnie, can you bump that up to the top?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And just one final note, Ivan, you had brought this up when we were talking about that new restaurant going in there by Shaw's, the roundabout, and how the downtown zoning district was a pay-for-parking situation. And the original intent had been for the downtown zoning district, but it was approved for the town core. So the planning commission and our zoning department are going to look to the select board to set a moratorium on a hold on future paper parking until they can amend the ordinance to reflect what the intent was, which was the downtown zoning district. So that'll be on next select board's agenda for hopefully to approve a moratorium on that. I'll have maps and showing you in detail what the area is that we're talking about. That's it.
Is there any other business?
I just want to add a big, huge thank you publicly to Doug Kilburn for the work he did on Green Mountain and getting it to the finish line.
I was going to mention it, actually.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to bring attention to the news out of Pollitt. It's difficult, I think, as a new member, because I think this member was also a new member of the select board too. So, not that this had anything necessarily to do with the root cause, but I think it's something that we just need to think about our safety here, and also our thoughts are certainly with the family and the whole town of Pollitt.
We do have a direct way to communicate with the police department non-verbally within this room in case something happens. And I'm not going to go into any more detail on that, but we're pretty well covered on that aspect of it.
Yeah, if we have any contentious issues, usually we can try to bring something over the cell towers.
That's probably the one, yeah.
There is on the website, the town website, I believe there's a link to a survey that the state is doing about cell tower coverage, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we're hoping people will take that survey and complete that for the state.
Right.
It's basically, where do you receive cell service and where don't you receive it? And everybody seems to know their own areas where the dead zones are. So
Yeah.
they want that feedback, and then they do a drive-through around the state, and they put a map out and show it. So if people would please complete that survey, it'd be great.
It's right under news and announcements on the homepage, 2024 Mobile Wireless Coverage Public Input Survey.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that
Just
up.
as an aside comment with cellular service, my big new barn, the arena barn, is a metal structure, and there's not really good cell service in that building. Unless I go into an interior room, and all of a sudden everything works. I have absolutely no idea why, but it's kind of crazy how the cell service works. Do we have a need for an executive session?
No, sir.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Our next meeting is October 6th here.
October 8th.
October